Today what we're doing is factoring and solving binomials. But before we get to that, the steps are on the board. You can see these are the 4 steps, 3 and 4 steps we're going to use. Before we get to those questions, though, we got to go over some review stuff. GCF. I know you guys have all heard GCF, greatest common factor, all of those things, right? Back when you did it, probably in elementary school, this is how it looked. You said there are 2 numbers, 16 and 18. And then they said, what's the biggest number that goes into both of those evenly? What's the biggest number that goes into both of those evenly? 6 goes into 18, not 16. 4 goes into 16, but not 18. I think 2 is, right? 2, I think 2 is the biggest number, right? It's 2 times 8 and 2 times 9, right? And we said 2 was the GCF, the biggest factor, the greatest factor that they have in common. We're going to do the same thing today. Step 2 is the same thing. It just looks different because you're Math 3 students now, right? So that's what we're asking here. So 1A. I have a binomial, 54 and 45x. What's the biggest number? First, let's start with the numbers. 54 and 45. What's the biggest number that goes into both evenly? Not 8. 9, I think 9 is the biggest. Yeah, I think 9 definitely goes in here, and it definitely goes in there. 54 doesn't have an x, so we can't even take that into account. So what do we say? We say the GCF is 9, right? GCF we always put in the front today. We're always going to put the GCFs in the front. And then we divide. What's 9 divide? Well, how many times does 9 go into 54? 6. How many times does 9 go into 45? 5. And then this one has an x, right? And then we're done. Okay? That part, like I said, those kind of things you guys have done before. Right? But I just wanted a refresher so that when we see it today, it's not that big of a deal. So let's go to this guy. We got 9 and 24. What's the biggest thing that goes into 9 and 24? 3, right? I think 3 is the biggest, yeah. Now I have x. They both have x's now, so I can take those into account. So this guy has x squared, 2 of them. This guy has x5, 5 of them. What's the biggest amount I can take from both? It's 2, right? I can only take 2 because this guy has 2 to give. This guy has 5 to give, but I can't take 5 away if he doesn't have that, right? So that's how we determine how many x2, because it's the most the biggest amount they share in common, or the biggest amount they both can take away. So GCF, this one is 3x squared. Okay, so we always write that in front. What's left over? Well, 3 goes into 9 3 times. If I take away 2 powers, how many powers are left? 0. How do I write 0 power? You don't. You don't write it x. If it has 0 power, you don't need to write it anymore. Okay? 3 goes into 24 8 times. If I take away 2 powers of x, how many are left? 3. Good. Okay. Let's go letter C. Well, remember, there's a -1 here, right? There's a -1 there. What is the biggest number they share in common? 1, right? So if 1 is the biggest number, you don't have to divide by a 1. X, how many x's what's the biggest number of x's I can take from both? 1, right? Because this guy's got 4, but this guy does not have 4, so I can't take away 4. The biggest one I can take away is 4. So GCF is x. So we put that guy in front. So that means this is just -1, right? And then if I take away a power, that leaves 3. We're going to do that a lot today. It's step 2 in our process. It's step 2 in our process, okay? So that's just a refresher there. The other refresher is from Math 2. In Math 2, you did something called difference of squares. You might not remember it, but I guarantee you did it. Difference of squares are when 3 things are true. The degree is the highest power. When the highest power is even, that's one condition. The second condition, it has to be a binomial and there has to be subtraction in the middle. That's second condition. The third condition is I have to be able to take square roots of the numbers there. Okay, so let's look at the first one. If all 3 of those are met, conditions are met, then I can do what's called difference of squares. So I'll show you. When I show you, you might click a little bit better. Okay. So first of all, is it a binomial? Is there only 2 terms? Yes, 49x squared and negative 4. Is there a minus in between them? Okay, so condition 1 is met. Condition 2, is the biggest power even number? Is it an even number, the biggest power? Well, what is the biggest power? Power, up top. 2, right? 2. Is 2 even? Okay, we're good there. The numbers, 49 and 4. If I took the square root of 49, would I get a whole number? What does square root mean? Yeah, 7, right? Because square root means, is there a number multiplied by itself that makes 49? Like 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4. Does that work for 49? Yes. 7 times 7, right? Does that work for 4? Yes. 2 times 2, right? So if all of those things are met, we can say it's difference of squares. So how does that help us? Well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to break them down into 2 smaller binomials. One of them is going to have a plus in the middle. One of them is going to have a minus in the middle. So how do we fill in the blanks? Well, start with 49. What was the square root of 49? What times itself makes 49? 7, right? So 7 there, 7 there. Now let's go to x. Since it's even, take half of the power. What's half of the power it started with? Just 1, right? X to the first. So we're going to write that here and that here. Now let's go to 4. What's the square root of 4? 2. So you're going to put a 2 here and a 2 here, and we're done. That's difference of squares. Let's say this is a test or a quiz, and I have this problem. And I got that as an answer, but I want to check it. Is there a way I can check my answer? Is there a way I can check 7x plus 2 times 7x minus 2 to make sure that it's the same as 49x squared minus 4? There you go, right? How did we do that last week? We used it called, starts with a B? A box, right? We did a 2 by 2 box. If you were to do a 2 by 2 box with 7x plus 2 and 7x minus 2, guess what you're going to get as an answer? 49x squared minus 4. It's a way to check your answer. You don't have to do that, but on tests and quizzes, I really want to get the answer right. So I want to check my answer. That's the way you can do it. You can always check your answer that way. Okay? All right, let's go to B now. Okay, so let's go. Does it follow the 3 conditions? First condition, is it a binomial with a subtraction in the middle? Yes. Is the biggest power an even number? Yes. 2, right? 2 is the biggest power. Do the numbers have square roots? So 81 and 121, do they have square roots like 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3? Well, 81 has 9 times 9, right? What about 121? 11 times 11. So we're good. This one is difference of squares. They won't all be, but this one is. Okay. So we break it down into 2 smaller binomials. One is a plus, one is a minus. So start with 81. What is the square root of 81? 9. So we put a 9 here and a 9 there. 121. What was the square root of 121? 11. And then this guy has the power, right? Half the power. So if I half the power, how many powers go in each? Just power of 1. You're done. Again, if you want to do a box to check it, you can, but you don't have to. Okay? All right. Yeah, go for it. Yep. So now let's look at C. Does this guy follow the 3 conditions? Does it have a binomial? Is it a binomial with subtraction in the middle? Check. Is the biggest power even? Yes. Do the numbers have square roots that are whole numbers? 16. Is the square root of 16 a whole number? 4 times 4, right? What about the guy in front? What number is in front there? That's a 1, right? Does 1 have a square root? 1 times 1 is 1, right? So this one is. It looks different, but it actually is difference of squares. So let's break it down into 2 smaller guys. So let's start with 1. What's the square root of 1? 1. You don't have to write the 1 in front, but you can if you want. Half the power. Since it's even, what do I get when I half it? B squared, right? B2, B squared. Let's go to the other guy. 16. Square root of 16? 4. And 4. Okay, so I get that answer. I put it into Delta Math. I hit enter twice, because they always ask you, are you sure you want that answer? Yes. I hit it twice, and it says wrong. How did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong, but look at our answer. Is there anything? So I don't have to write the 1 in front. You can if you want. But what about this guy here? I got to keep going with this guy, right? What about this guy here? Is this guy difference of squares? Which rule does it break? Or which condition does it not meet? Yeah, it doesn't have subtraction. If it had subtraction, it'd be good. But that one, we leave. It's done. That one's done. So we don't need to do any work with that one, but we need to do work with this guy over here. Because this one meets all the conditions, right? It's got a 1 in front. It's got a 4 there. It's got a minus. It's a binomial. And the power is even. So we have plus and we have minus. So what goes in the front? What goes in the back? What's the square root of 1? 1. Half the power? B. So B and B, 1B and 1B. 4. What's the square root of 4? 2 and 2. Bring this guy down because this guy didn't meet all the conditions. Are any of those that I have left difference of squares? No, because it's not subtraction. No, because it's not subtraction. Subtraction, but does this meet? Does this binomial meet? No. It fails, right? What's the power here? What power does B have? 1, right? Is 1 even? No. So that's where it fails. Is 2, if I put the square root of 2 in my calculator, will I get a whole number? No, you'll get a decimal. Watch, I'll show you. Square root 2. 1.414213. It's not a nice pretty number, the square root. So it doesn't apply. So the difference of squares doesn't apply. So I'm done. That's when you know you're done. When you can't do it anymore, you stop. One box in Delta Math, all 3 of them, just like you see it there. Parentheses, 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 just like that. Okay? All right. Let's do one more like this, and then we'll get to our assignment. Yes? What's that? I don't know where she's at.
72.
Okay. Go ahead. Okay. All right. Is this guy difference of squares? Does it follow the rules? Does it follow the three conditions? So is it a binomial with a subtraction? Is the highest power odd or even? Are 25 and 64 square roots? Of all of those yes, or some of those no? So if all of those are yes, let's dive a little deeper. Okay. All right. 1 plus, 1 minus. 1 plus, 1 minus. Okay. Yeah, restroom, sure. Okay. So, what goes first? What goes before the plus and the minus? What's the square root of 25? 5. Power? What power? A3. Half the power. Good. 64. What's square root of 64? 8 and 8. Good. Can I go any deeper, or am I done? So take a look at the ones that we have left. So don't assume that we're done. This guy here, does it follow the three conditions, or does it break one of them? It breaks at least one of them, right? The highest power is 3. Has to be even. That's not right. Has to have a minus in between. 5 and 8 don't have square roots that are nice, pretty. Same thing over here. The only rule that it does follow is the minus in between. Everything else, it doesn't. So we're done. Okay. All right, so now let's get to what we're doing today. I think we got good background stuff. Okay, so today, this is our Math 3 stuff now. So today we're doing either 3 or 4 steps. How do we know if we're doing 3 steps, or how do we know if we're doing 4 steps? Well, does the direction say factor, or does it say factor and solve? If the word solve or solving is there, you got to do all of the blue ones, all 4 of them. If it just says factor, you do the green ones. That means you don't have to do the last step. Okay, so let's look at, this should be 3. I don't know why it's example 1 again. This should be example 3. Okay. Just says factor, doesn't say solve anywhere. So step 1. Is the binomial in standard form? What I mean by standard form is, does the big power go first and the little power go second? Yeah, second squared and then 1, right? GCF, okay, so let's look at the GCF. We did work on that in the first page. Is there a GCF? Start with 5 and 40. Is there a GCF? What's the biggest thing that goes into 5 and 40? Good. How about B's? How many B's can I take away from, what's the most amount of B's I can take away from both? 1. Good. That's the GCF, always goes in front. One divided by 1 is 1. If I take away a power, I have 1 power of B left, so 1B plus. 5 goes into 40 8 times. If I take away a power of B, I have no B's left, right? Okay, step 2 done. Step 3, is what I have left difference of squares? Right here, what I have left. Does that meet all 3 conditions for difference of squares? So, is it a binomial with subtraction in the middle? No. Is the biggest power even? No. Does 8 have a nice square root? Is 8 something like 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3? Nope. So it doesn't even follow any of them. So you're done. When that happens, you're done. Okay? All right. All right, let's do 3B now. Still says factors, so we're only going to do step 1, step 2, and step 3. Step 1, does it go big power, little power? That means it's in standard form. Okay, that most of the time that'll be done for us, but make sure you check. GCF. Okay. So what's the biggest thing that goes into -3 and +3? And then what about p's? What's the most amount of p's I could take away? 3. Okay. Yes?
When it's a negative, does it matter if the GCF, like, will it matter?
Yeah, that was my next step. You took the words right out of my mouth. Good job. GCF has to have a positive in the front. So it does matter, right? Does it have a positive in the front? No, it's got negative. So what do I divide by to make it positive? Negative. Yep, there we go. So the negative, yeah, good job for catching that. Okay. So a -3 divided by -3 makes +1. If I take away 3 powers of p, how many powers do I have left? 4. So 1 p to 4. -3 divided by 3 makes -1. If I take away 3 powers, how many powers are left? 0, right? So since I don't have any p's left, I have to write something. So I'm just going to have to write that 1, right? You don't have to write it in front of p to the 4th, but since there's nothing there, I have to write it. I can't leave it blank. Okay, step 2 done. Step 3, difference of squares. Is what we have left considered difference of squares? So let's ask the 3 questions again. Is it a binomial with subtraction in the middle? Check. Is the biggest power even? Check. Is the numbers either, in front, are they both square roots? 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4. Yes, 1 is 1 and 1, right? So it is difference of squares. Okay. So what's the square root of 1? 1, right? Because 1 times 1 makes 1. Half the power. What do you get? 2. So 1p2. Sorry, I should have put my plus and my minus there. 1p squared, or p2. 1. What's the square root of 1? Positive 1, negative 1. This guy stays. This guy just comes along. Okay. So now I have 2 smaller guys. What I mean by smaller is they have smaller powers, right? Instead of P4, now P2 and P2. Are any of those guys difference of squares, or am I done? Yeah. One of them is, right? One of them is. One of them, this guy right here, right? Not the other one, because the other one's plus. So this guy here can be broken down into 2 smaller. So we have plus and minus. So the better you are at this, like this part, I want you to do in your head, right? I want you to do these in your head because that'll make it easier. So what would go in front of the plus, in front of the minus? Just 1p, right? Half the power. And what goes to the right of the plus and the minus? 1. Everything else comes down. Okay. Now, is what I have left any of them difference of squares? So this is what I get. I've seen this before. I'm only bringing it up because I've seen this before. I have some students tell me this right here is difference of squares. That guy is difference of squares. Why are they wrong or right? The power, yeah, the power. It's missing the power. If it had a 2 or a 4 or a 6 or an 8, then you'd have difference of squares. But since it doesn't, we are done. Okay. Okay. Letter C. Is it in standard form? Are the letters, are the powers big to little? Yeah, there's only one guy with a power and he's in front already, so good. Is there a GCF 4 in 121? No, I don't think so, because 2 goes into 4, but it definitely doesn't go into 121 because 121's odd. 4 doesn't go into 121 because it's odd again, so no GCF besides 1. There's always a GCF of 1, but we don't need to write it if that's all it is. Okay? Step 2. Is this guy difference of squares? Sometimes there will be some problems where you can't do any of step 1, step 2, step 3, you're done. So don't take in. Some people think, well, I didn't do step 1, I didn't do step 2, so that means I have to do step 3. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. But this guy does fall into those steps, right? What's going to go to the left of the plus and the minus? 2x3, right? 2x3, good. 2x3, because the square root of 4 is 2. Half the power, x3. And then what is the square root of 121? 11. 11. Are any of those guys difference of squares? No. Now we're done. Now we're done. Okay. 1 box, 2 parentheses, just like that. Okay. On the other side, example should be example number 4, but it says example number 2. I don't know why. The only difference between what we've done now and what we're going to do is these ones, we got to use step 4. We have to use step 4. The directions are not the same. You change your directions. It should be example 4, and then these should be the directions. I don't know why your directions got repeated, but these should be the directions for example 4. Change them, please, in your notes so that you have them. Because without them, we wouldn't do step 4, but we need to, because the directions should be this. Okay? Solve algebraically for all values of x. Okay, I'll give you some time to, I don't know why it didn't copy when I copied it, but just change it. So now, the word solve is in there. So because the word solve is in there, we're going to do the 4th step now. The 4th step is probably the easiest, so there's no reason to say, oh, another step. No, it's the easiest step. So, but you just have to remember to do it. Anytime it says solve, you're going to have an equal sign. Don't worry about the equal sign. It's not going to affect what we do. We're playing the same game we've been playing. The only difference is I added a new rule at the end. That's it. Okay? So the same thing we've been doing. So let's start. Is this in standard form? Does it have big power to little power? Yeah, done. GCF. Is there a GCF number letter-wise that I can divide them both by? Yeah, I think 4 is the biggest. And then the most amount of powers they can give me are 2, right? They both can give me 2. So it's going to be 4x2. The equals 0, you just write it down. It's not going to, it doesn't affect the problem. So it's not going to affect your answer or any of the steps or anything. So 4 goes into 16 4 times. If I take away 2 powers, that still leaves x. 4 goes into 28 7 times, right? And then if I take away 2 powers of x, I don't have anything left. No powers of x. Step 2 done. Step 3, difference of squares. This guy here. Is that difference of squares? Nope. Doesn't even make one rule. The power needs to be even. There's no subtraction. The square root of 7 is not a pretty number. It's not an even or a whole number. So the answer is no. That's where we would stop if it just said factor. So how do we solve it? How do we do step 4? This is what you're going to do. Whatever's left over, you're going to set equal to 0. So we have 2 things, right? I have the GCF equals 0. The part in parentheses equals 0. Okay? We need answers. When it says solve, I need answers, right? So to get answers, we have to solve for x. Okay, so let's start with the left side. I got to get x by itself. Right now it's got a 4 and a power. I don't want a power, I don't want a 4. So I have 4 options. I can add, subtract, multiply, or divide. What am I going to do to get rid of the 4? Add it, subtract it, multiply, or divide it. So right now, is it multiplying, right? 4 and x squared are being multiplied. So to undo it, how do I undo multiplication? Division, yep, division. At 4 divided by 4 makes 1. 0 divided by 4. If you have 4 slices of pizza and your friend gets none, how much of the pizza does your friend have? None. They don't have any. Okay, x squared. X squared means a number times itself. 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4. What 2 numbers multiplied by itself make 0? 0. So there's your answer. Now let's go to the other side. We're going to get another answer. Okay, how do I get x by itself over here? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Subtract, yep, subtract first. Minus 7 from both sides. 0 minus 7 is negative 7. What's the last step? Divide by 4, divide by 4. Okay, so now does 4 go into negative 7 evenly? No. Don't change it to a decimal. Okay, leave it as a fraction. Just reduce it. Reduce means make it smaller if you can. Doesn't mean change it to a decimal. Can I reduce negative 7 divided by 4? No. So just leave it like that. Negative 7 divided by 4. Unless they specifically tell you, change it to a decimal or round your answer, leave it as a fraction. Because I'll tell you why. Because there's some decimals that Delta Math is okay with, and there's some decimals Delta Math is not okay with. I've seen students change it to a decimal and get it right. I've seen them change it to a decimal and get it wrong. I don't want you to get it wrong when you don't have it wrong, so leave it as a fraction. Just reduce it. Okay? All right. Okay, 2 more, we're done. 2 more, we're done. If you're getting the hang of this, don't wait for me. Just go. Do the last 2, and then you're done. Okay, so here we go. First step. Standard form, descending order, big power first, second power, or lowest power last? Yes. Okay, GCF. Definitely a Z. And I think 4 goes into both of them. And I can take away 3 powers of z, right? So that's my GCF. Divide. 4 divided by 4, positive 1. If I take away 3 powers, of z, how many powers do I have left? 2. So 1 z squared. 4 goes into 64 16 times. If I take away 3 powers, that's all it had. So it doesn't have any powers left. Step 2 done. Step 3. Difference of squares. Is that difference of squares? Yes, it is. 1 plus, 1 minus. So what's going to go to the left of the plus and minus? What's going to go to the right of the plus and minus? Yeah, just 1 z, right? Just 1 z and 1 z. And then the square root of 16, 4 and 4. Bring down this guy you haven't used. Now, before we go on, are any of these guys difference of squares? I get a lot of students saying, this guy right here is difference of squares. Is that difference of squares? No, it's missing the power. Good. It's not difference of squares. Leave it alone. Okay, last step. Set them all equal to 0. This guy, and this guy. GCF and the 2 things in parentheses. Everything in parentheses, we set equal to 0. We got to get x by itself every time. X, x, x. Got to get x by itself on the blue line every time. So these guys are the easy ones. You just subtract 4 over here and add 4 over here. Z equals negative 4. Z equals positive 4. This guy over here. We're going to do what we did last time. Divide by 4. Z to the 3rd power equals 0. To the 3rd power just means the same as squared, but you're just multiplying 3 times. 1 times 1 times 1. 2 times 2 times 2. 3 times 3 times 3. 4 times 4 times 4. What times itself 3 times makes 0? 0. 0 times 0 times 0. And there you go. Okay. The last problem, I want you to change a little bit because, yes, C, I'm not quite ready for that problem yet. We'll do that problem later in the chapter. So C, I want you to change it to negative 81 a to the 4th plus 100 a squared equals 0. Yeah, change it to that. And what I want you to do is do step 1 and step 2. Step 1 and step 2, and then I'll meet you with step 3. If you know how to do step 3, do step 3, but okay. So step 1 and step 2. Is it in standard form already? Is there a GCF? If there is, divide it, just like we've been doing. Okay, so the powers go big to small, GCF. I need a positive in the front. So 81 and 100, there's no number besides 1 that goes into 81 and 100. But I need to change the first to positive, because rule 2 says leading term needs to be positive. And then I can take away 2 powers, right? So negative 1a squared. I get 81a squared minus 100. Is that difference of squares in the yellow? Yes, it is. So 1 plus, 1 minus. The square root of 81 is 9. Half the power, a. Square root of 100 is 10. GCF comes along for the ride. No more difference of squares. Solve it. In this case, we got to solve it 3 times. Here it is. Solve for A, solve for A, solve for A. Divide by negative 1, 0. What number times itself equals 0? 0. Subtract 10 from both sides. Negative 10 over 9. Don't change it to a decimal because it's going to be a decimal. You can't reduce it, so leave it. Divide by 9. Divide by 9. There's your 3 answers. Okay. Okay, so tape. If you need tape, it's in the back. Grab some, pass it around. Once you're done with it, put it back in the back. Don't leave it on your desk because my next class doesn't need tape. Okay? And we'll do some practice tomorrow.